my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Tilt and Shift Photography Business Podcast. I am your host, Bobby B, and I am talking with you today about something that my last guest, Moni from the Richters, talked about. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, it is episode 52, How to Find Comfort in Discomfort, with Only the Richters. That's what their handle on Instagram. And the thing that I loved what she talked about, and this is actually something that Anastasia Pagonis talked about as well. She's on episode 50, I believe, talking about having personal projects and work that is personal and making the work for our clients, making that personal. But the value in personal projects is something that I cannot begin to explain. I'm trying with this episode how valuable it is to have a personal project. For very simple reasons, it boosts your creativity. I have an episode on that a couple of episodes ago, limitations to boost your creativity. But what it does is it gives you something that is kind of, no one's paying you to do it. And it's really just an act of self-love that you are working on this. This is something that you are doing for yourself. The thing that people often get caught up with personal projects is that they want it to become something. Like it has to become something, it has to be published. It has to be, shared. It has to be talked about. It doesn't have to be any of those things. So if you're one of those people who gets a bit overwhelmed by the outcome before you even start the process, this is going to be very freeing for you. Personal projects rapidly advance your technical skills, your ability to, like your follow through, your ability to see photos where you don't have to. So that really hones your photographic eye. And it just keeps you fresh, right? It keeps you continually thinking about this one thing that you're working on. I have had dozens of personal projects over the years, but there are two that I continually come back to. One is my wedding work, the photos I make for myself at weddings. There's a few iterations of it. One is called The Last Night on Earth, and it's just it's this mounting tension into the debacle that happens at parties. Another one is the smoking section. I'm slowly working on that because not as many people smoke, but I don't understand smoking. I don't. I mean, I do. I understand like how addictive it is and why people do it, blah, 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 blah. So I guess, yes, I mean, like cerebrally, I understand smoking, but I also don't understand smoking. And so I always take photos of people smoking because there's also kind of like a romance and like the smoke is really photographable, but there's also this like shame associated with it. It's a multifaceted activity that I often see at weddings. So I like to photograph that. But one project, the one that I wanted to talk with you about today, is a project that I didn't even realize I was making. And I think this is something that might speak to you if you're someone who's like, oh, I want to have a personal project, but I just don't know what to do. So what I started doing about 1.5 years ago was I started photographing a certain feeling I had. Okay. Another pitfall of having a personal project is that it feels like you're giving yourself work. And I didn't want to create work, but I did want to photograph this feeling. And when I work in digital, I feel like I'm creating more work for myself. But when I use film, it doesn't feel like more work. It feels like done. I can't even look at it. All I can do is make the photo. That's it. That's all. I just press a button. That's all I do. It is the simplest thing. The easiest way. There's no barrier to entry other than the price. Certainly not cheap. But that price makes you be quite conscious about what you're doing as well. So I love film. I have like 15 plastic cameras, and I just always have one with me. And so 1.5 years ago, I actually went to Brooklyn, and I did a session with Holger Toss from the Ritual Collective. Hopefully one day I will have him on this podcast. But I did a session with him, and he said to me, it had so much impact because I'm always, up until that point, I had always really critiqued my work, which we do. We have to look at our work. We have to understand how to make it better. And I've really been diligent about like understanding the rules of documentary photography. And there are a shit ton of rules in documentary photography. And the reason that it's important to know those rules is you can intentionally break them. Once you know them, you can break them. And that's where the impact of a photography has, is when you can break a rule for the purpose of the photo that you're making, breaking rules with meaning. If people just just don't know the rules, they can also make some really beautiful work because they're not like, they don't get it. But more often, your photos could be a lot better if you just understood a few of these rules. And I prefer to call them guidance or parameters. I have a course called Definitely Documentary that teaches you how to use those quote unquote rules of documentary photography, how to use them to actually create compelling images without slapping your fingers if you do it quote unquote wrong. I can leave the link in the show notes, but all of this to say, I have felt very boxed in by these rules and wanting things to be right, which is my Virgo nature. Things have to be right. I'm also very analytical. And you know what? I'm in my 40s. Fuck that. I want to do things differently. So what Holger said to me, he's like, if you see something that compels you, just take a photo. Friends, it blew my mind. And the reason it blew my mind is because of what I just said. All of these things go through my head before I depress the shutter. One, do I want to edit this? Unfortunately, now there's all this work. This is editing and posting and blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, I don't even want to do that. So I kind of stopped taking photos for myself. But if you have a plastic camera with you, there's no like responsibility towards it. Like all I do is hold it up to my eye, like, oh, I felt something. I'm gonna take a picture of whatever I'm looking at, So that's what started happening for me. I have been going through some super challenging relationship and emotional stuff over the past couple of years, and it coincided with this desire to shirk all rules and to start photographing things for myself. And so I have hundreds and hundreds of photos that I've made on film that didn't make any sense to me. I looked at them and solitarily, none of them are particularly compelling. But what I started to realize in the past kind of 2 months, as the smoke is clearing in my heart, is I've been taking photos of moments in my life where I felt grounded. And I couldn't have told you that was happening a year and a half ago. That I was just taking photos when I felt a very specific feeling. And it was this sense of like a bit of an inhale, but also just like a sense of like, here I am. And that's, here I am, and this is what I see. Like it was just a moment, it's a moment of pause. Because I felt like I've been running, like fucking running. And I have, like I run ultras. So yes, I'm not wrong. I have been running a lot. But in my life, I've been, and taking out this plastic camera and taking a photo of something where I felt pause, where I felt a groundedness, was opposite of what I was going through, right? And so I took a photo. And so with that in hindsight, again, I didn't know I was doing this at the time. I just was like, okay, I want to take a photo right now. And I would take a photo. Didn't look at it. I couldn't critique it. I couldn't analyze it. I didn't know what the edges looked like. I didn't know if the subjects were separated, blah, 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 blah. I didn't know any of that. In fact, there's very few of them even have people in them. But now I have this kind of canon of this feeling of groundedness that I've experienced for the first time in my life, my friends. Like I struggle with the sense of home. And one of the questions my partner continually asked me is, where were you? He's like, where have you been? You're never home. And to be honest, I I've never I've never felt home. I've never felt safe at home. My childhood was really I was not safe where I lived. And so I think that instilled in me this feeling of, I know it instilled in me a feeling of flight, of never really settling, of never sitting down and like being present with feelings. So that's why that feeling of groundedness was really new to me a couple of years ago. Now I soak it in constantly. But back then it was very new. It was this kind of emerging feeling that I had never really acknowledged. And so with that question, it made me, I didn't understand the question because I was home, I was here, but I wasn't physically, anyways. And what I saw in those photos, when I started grappling with this question of where were you, with my answer being I was home, and he and I having very different perceptions of what my answer meant, I found in the photos that that's where home was. I was home the whole time. Every time I made one of these photos, that was home. So if you are listening to this on a podcast, I'm going to invite you to look at my YouTube. I'm making a video of this and I'm going to share what I've done. So the other thing that happens when we have personal projects is like this question of like, what do I do with it? I have to publish it, blah, blah, blah. Take that pressure off, my friends. And again, I'm speaking from experience. Like I didn't give myself any pressure. I just was like, I'm going to take photos of this feeling. And I didn't always take, like, only when I had my camera with me, of course, but it was very easy. It was very achievable. It had no responsibility associated with it. And I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes we get a little bit tired of responsibility and all the things that we have to do. And so we avoid doing projects for ourselves. But if any of this kind of sparks an idea for you, I encourage you just to follow it. And if the trail runs out, it's fine. You just followed a trail for a while. It's okay. You saw things along the way. You felt some stuff. That's what life is about. It's just picking up different tracks, seeing where they lead, and maybe it will lead you somewhere cool. Maybe it won't. But that's not the point. Getting to the cool place isn't the point because we can't predict where we start. We can't predict where we're going to end up. Like you 10 years ago really had no idea that you were going to be exactly where you are today. Right? You can't predict any of that stuff. So I think a personal project is, and approaching it from the perspective of, I just want to make a photo of something without critiquing yourself or judging yourself or shaming yourself or guilting yourself or any of the shite that comes along with it. Just make a photo because you want to make a photo, you know? And so then what I ended up doing with those images is because I started to see as I looked through them, and I'm working with Anastasia in her group. She was my guest, Anastasia Pagonas, a couple of episodes ago. This month we did something called the zine. And a zine, if any of you guys have ever been on slightly counterculture, there are these things called zine. They're just papers stapled together, various ideas, images, drawings, writings. They tend to be a little chaotic. They don't have to be, but like that's like the heart of the zine that kind of came out of punk culture. But now, I mean, you can make a zine about anything. It can be one topic. It can be many topics. It's just there's so many options. But really, the low responsibility, low cost, it's just printed on paper and stapled. There's no like fancy book binding or like special quality of paper or any of that stuff. So I made a zine of this question, where were you? And I titled it Home, Not Home. Home slash not home. And so if you're looking at this on YouTube, this is what it looks like. It's just paper. It's just printed on paper and it's stapled in the middle. And there's one photo on each page or there's like or there's a double page spread. And they're just the images from my camera that I never knew I was putting together. And now I have this record of where I've been in the last year and a half. Um, yeah, y'all can't see this if you're listening to me, but I hope you can feel it in my voice that this was a kind of profound experience for me. I didn't know it was happening when I was making it. And now I have this simple, low quality, beautiful piece of work that I can enjoy for myself, you know? So, what am I trying to say? I encourage you, my friend, just to have a shitty camera with you. Let's carry it with you. When something strikes you, make a photo of it. Take the pressure and the work off of yourself and start paying attention to how you see the world. It might be photos of your kids. It might be photos of your feet. It might be photos of cars you pass on the road. It doesn't matter. If you're having trouble thinking of where to get started in having a personal project, think about the worlds that you have access to. Like, are you a volunteer? Are you an athlete? Are you a gamer? Are you a nature nut? Are you a runner? Are you I don't know, a ceramicist? Like, are you a poet? Like, what are there micro worlds within your world outside of your work that you frequently are part of? Or is there one that you're really interested in that you would like to become a part of? Remember, the camera gives us access to places that we don't normally go. One of my other personal projects is photographing teenagerhood. And so every so often I call the teens up that I know. I'm like, hey, let's go do a photo shoot. Or I make those during my family shoots. So those are, I'm super interested in teenagers. They absolutely fascinating to me. I love that period of life. So yeah, that's another one that I'm always working on. But these things don't have to be, well, this needs to go into an exhibit, or this needs to be, there's no due date. It's something that I've been working on the teens for 7 years. I don't know if it'll ever go anywhere, but it's something that I'm interested in. So I took a photo of it. So I think that's the encouragement I want to leave you with here, my friends, is if you're interested in it, make a photo of it and then just see what happens. The trail, like I said, it might peter out, or it might lead you somewhere really cool, or to like a realization that you didn't know would exist in a couple of years. um, on that note, so the other little piece about having a personal project is that it really does change your creative life, because once you give yourself permission to have this project, it kind of like sits in the back of your brain all the time, and it tickles you every so often, like, hey, what about this? And so you're always kind of like, it shifts your creative eye, especially if you're someone who only picks up your camera when you go to work. It really changes how your relationship with your camera and your relationship with your subjects. So that is the other piece of this that's super beneficial about having a personal project, is you learn to use your camera in a different way. You develop a different relationship with your camera, and it might have to be a different camera than the one that you use at work. Like I said, using film, a plastic film camera was opened up a whole portal for me. And then putting it into print your friggin' photos. We want our clients to print their photos. Why aren't we printing them? Like, once I made this zine, I printed like 5 of my trips from last year. And they're awesome. Like, it's just so, I know that we know this, but like, it's so much better than it being on my phone, right? Like, practice what you preach, my friends. Print your work. Okay. Before I let you go, there's one thing that I want to remind you of. I am hosting a creativity retreat, an inspo adventure retreat in August. Friends, I'm so friggin' stoked for this. We are going to do some very adventurous things. We're going to do some zip lining and some hiking and some cold dipping, but we're also going to be taught by 3 different artists their form of art. We're going to take 3 different art classes together. And the point of taking art classes, the point of doing slightly challenging physical things is because it opens up your brain. Totally opens your brain. Getting outside of your comfort zone, being introduced to new things, completely changes your parameters of comfort, and that changes your creative mind. The layer on top of this that is even more important is we're going to be doing it all in nature. So we're going to be spending some very intentional time examining, looking at, being at one with nature, because we are nature. We are not above nature. We do not rule nature. We are part of it. So it's really regrounding ourselves in our innate experience in this world. And so then we're going to have discussions about what that is like to actually acknowledge that we are part and parcel of the moss and the trees and the earth and the bears and all of the stuff that's around us. How do we tap that creativity into our, and that connection with nature? How do we tap that into our creativity and bring it back to our desks? So lots of like mind-bending cerebral stuff, and then lots of like nearly screaming with joy stuff. You'll all be staying here in my heritage home. There's 4 of you. You're staying in this place. We're staying all together. We're eating spectacular food. All of it is covered. Everything is included. So there's no like extra surprises or anything. You just have to get your butt to Nelson, BC. So if that is intriguing to you, the link to sign up for details is in the show notes. I will also put the link to everything else I talked about today into the show notes. So make sure you check those. And if you have the time, please remember to have a